Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for making it to the event, and I thank ICN for providing all of us this opportunity to speak on this topic. We are going to speak on growth of biologicals and biopesticides as sustainable alternatives. This session examines how we can scale truly sustainable alternatives without compromising productivity and profits. Our agriculture system is under stress from multiple angles. There is a demand for residue-free produce. There's a tightening global standards that are coming in. There's a lot of pest resistance building up. There's climate-related stress that is coming in, and overall, there's a requirement for safer chemistry that is happening. And biologics promise part of the answer, right? Very important part of the answer, but they have to be. It has to be supported by regulation, manufacturing, and farmer adoption. So today's session, we have distinct panelists sitting here who will touch upon multiple aspects of this topic today. And we'll talk about policy, we'll talk about technology, we'll talk about product performance, supply chains a little bit, and also about farmer adoption. And we'll also try to see if we are export ready in some way. We will start by talking about the rising demand for sustainable and organic produce. And my question is to Mr. Srinivasa. What are the indicators that you're seeing for rising demand for biologics in India, whether it is premium retail or whether it is residue norms, whether it is export-driven pressure, but what are the indicators of demand?
First of all, thank you for being, inviting down to the panel. First of all, thank you so much. So currently, as we are talking about horticulture produce, the export, which contributes largely by the many horticulture crops, where we have seen a lot of rejections at, with the MRL issues. So one specific export-driven, especially, pushing either it is basmati or grapes, or even bananas, even to the mangoes. That is one thing which is at least creating a space for biologicals to start with. In addition to that, I worked in industry for about 30 years, largely agrochemicals, led Bayer and Asia in strategy and as a group companies. I never could explain properly to my wife that what I actually do with pesticides, right? It is very difficult to break the perception of the people with respect to the chemistry. So this perception actually driving a lot of people towards organic consumption. I'm not talking about whether it is sustainable in terms of food security, etc., but as a category, organic is something which is very catching up. Certified organic or, compliant safe food, it is very, distinct, but not very clearly defined as a market today. If I talk more of a market perspective, we are just talking about MRLs and biocontrols, etc., but a lot of biological need, in terms of biofertilizers and inoculants, where we spend about 250,000 crores plus into the fertilizer subsidies. And all our soils at a global level locked with phosphorus for next 100 years. Even if you don't apply DAP for next 100 years, you can still make sure that the phosphorus is reasonably available to the plant with the kind of biofertilizers that essentially you can make. So a lot of, triggers are there that actually, driving the adoption and, making feel the necessity of these biologicals to begin with. That is what I strongly feel, though we are at a very small market size, maybe 6,000-7,000 crore, in total in India today. But I see at least a high double-digit growth because participation from MNCs, local companies, everybody is actually catching up. And awareness at a farm level, at a consumer level is catching up. Yeah.
Dr. Shailendra, he talked about a double-digit growth, right? So from a manufacturing and order book standpoint, how do you see the demand trends visible in your order book?
I think what Srini has said, I'll just add to this because we have the almost similar kind of experience. We have been seeing a very significant and robust growth in past 5 years. And if you just look at any of the biological companies, everybody has grown. And we are expecting that this double-digit growth is not going to stop here. I mean, estimations are different, ranging from 12% to about 16, 18%. There is a range depending on what source we are talking about. But in general, I can talk from my experience that 5 years back when I came into this industry of biologicals, I mean, like Srini, I have also worked in various aspects. When we were going and talking to the farmer about the biologicals, he was not even ready to listen at that point of time. In these 5 years, that change has occurred, and it's a lot to do with, I would credit it to the social media platforms also. A lot of awareness has come through, a lot of communication has gone through that. But somewhere the farmer has started realizing that the current practices have some gap. And when we talk about those gaps, the farmer is ready to listen to an alternative. And that is where we at all the biological companies, we are able to at least create an awareness and make a receptivity among the farmers to talk about it. And I'm sure about it, like Srini has talked about the phosphorus, I mean, same thing is like we are importing a lot of potash, right? We are net importer of potash, but the soil also is full of potash here. So it's the same story for all kind of nutritions. So I'm not saying that we are going to replace it immediately overnight in 3 years, but definitely we see a lot of potential for growth in coming, at least for next 15 to 20 years, I don't see any issue in this.
Got it. Very good to know that the demand is reflecting in the growth of all the firms. My next question is to Dr. Archana. Given that the private sector is seeing growth, from a government standpoint, what initiatives or regulatory changes are you looking at which you believe are critical to accelerate the safe scale up of biologicals?
I think everyone must be aware that government has reduced the GST on biopesticides. So it is to encourage pesticide users so that biopesticide can be popularized. Moreover, to make it more appealing and from registration point of view, guidelines have been relaxed for the registration of biopesticides. And even if you see the application fee they are supposed to submit, it is very, very less, that 1/10 of the fee what is applicable for the chemical pesticides. So to encourage registration of biopesticides and to encourage the use of pesticides, I think government is taking many steps. Thank you.
And my next question is to Ms. Isha. How should companies structure claims, labels, and compliance documentation to align with these evolving regulatory norms?
First of all, thank you so much for inviting me. So, my perspective is, I would say, a little different because the kind of background that we have, like in terms of profession, I'm having a legal background. In terms of origin, I also come from a farmer's family. So that way I know that what is happening at that end. And also the kind of clients that you're dealing with come from the industry. So they have a product range which comes into the market. So in terms of legal, if I put it that way, the kind of claims that are mentioned on the products, they need to be in sync with the data that is submitted to the authorities. Then with the efficacy also, we don't follow, in India at least, we don't follow the absolute criteria, like we cannot write that it is 100% authentic or that way. It needs to be validated. So you have a criteria where it needs to be, I would say, field tested at least 2 locations, so multiple location field testing criteria is there. Then we have label requirements. So in label, if in case there is a strain, then you need to mention the strain identity. Then you also need to mention the safety and first aid criteria, caution measures, disclaimers, you need to mention all of that. And you cannot just randomly write that it is organic or eco-friendly. You need to have those certifications in place. So everything is validated before being able to put it on the label itself. And with an IP view, like if I give you a farmer's view, what happens is that they are not very literate to follow the things that you're going to mention on the product as such. So for them, the look and feel of the product, I don't feel that farmers are actually going through the entire write-up that is mentioned. They just probably look that this product looks from this company, and this is the character that is being used by the company or the brand name or the logo, and they will probably just buy it. So from that level, I believe the trainings needs to be incorporated to take care of it. Other than that, on the distributor level also, we have a lot of liabilities on them. So you can impose liability, I would say contracts, which mentions the limited liability, how it is going to be used. Along with that, you can put pressure on the control mechanisms like the label clauses you can mention. Then you can also mention that what is going to be the storage mechanism, because that is very critical in this industry. So that can be written. And in the contract phase, to safeguard the entire process, from a distributor level, you can again put strong clauses. On the partner level, you can restrict the misuse of the branding, and probably the unlabeled brand or the expired products need not to be in the market. So you can put strict liabilities and also penalties on them on that regard. Along with that, with certain, I would say, retailers, you need to educate them about how the product needs to be stored and also about how it needs to be utilized. So the SOP, the proper protocol needs to be there. So yeah, that's from the legal point of view. Thank you.
That's very clear and well put. Thanks, Isha. Let's talk about pest resistance that is growing. My question is to Mr. Srinivas. How can biologics be integrated into resistance management programs to extend lifespans of your existing chemistry synthesis? Or
No, first of all, we should all accept that the innovation pipeline or discovery pipeline, even at a chemistry level, is getting dried up. So if I were talking about some 600, 700 molecules globally, India, we might be having about 270, 280 molecules. So at least I worked in MNCs all through my life. I know the kind of R&D investments that are getting into the chemistries. One. Second, a lot of new pests and pest resistance, like, diamide is, which is very recent example, which has got resistance already, which was the chemistry group that was actually solving a lot of leptopteran issues. Neonicotinoids are already got resistance. So biologicals eventually have to be integrated in a way so that we can actually prolong the product life cycle. Because if you ask, largely we talk about microbials today because that is how the biologicals evolved. But a lot of new approaches are also shaping up, be it is on the biotransformation of metabolites, or talking about RNAis, or talking about peptide-based chemistries, because at least the last couple of years, I got an opportunity to speak to many startups across the globe, be it is US, be it is Brazil. There are a lot of efforts are being put. Things are actually taking shape. So how can we make it more integrated even with the options that what we have today? At least to begin with, chili crop we see at least not less than 25, 30 sprays they do it on Badigi. Things are actually somewhere, unless you show the value, it is very difficult to make it an integrated part of it. So I think, we had been two distinct industries, biological companies and chemical companies been in the past. But now things are at least getting, a shape that, both industries are now working each other. Even maybe, at least I would start, this has started with biostimulants to begin with, because at least brands were not making money, so people are trying to make a little bit of money with the biostimulants, to be put it more candid. So with that actually that journey of, integrating biologics into the chemistries have started. Many MNCs have started shaping up, at least I know Syngenta, Bayer, Cotiva, everyone is actually focusing on biologicals. But technologically, there are certain constraints to mix at this point of time, but formulation technologies are evolving. So I'm definitely see this is going to be an important aspect of integrating biologicals, at least in the initial rounds. And, pre-harvest intervals are to be managed at least on certain crops like grapes and pomo. That is already seen already, and I see a good example from CropLife India, which they are doing a grape net program where they are actually educating the farmers to, manage the overall piece. So though biological not explicitly a part of the program, but they're actually promoting it. So resistance management, I mean, integrated pest, I would say integrated pest and nutrition management should be a way forward, because though we just talk about pest, but if the nutrition is managed well, at least your pest crop protection requirements would come by at least 20 to 30% down. So I definitely recommend integrated crop nutrition and pest management, and wherein resistance management is, something which we can really take care of. Yeah.
Very clearly put. I think the framing of pest management versus integrated nutrition and pest management is clear. Dr. Archana, therefore, what is the regulator's guidance on and guidelines on integrating biologics in the system formally?
One thing which is universally accepted is there's for Ayurveda it is said that swasthasya swasthya rakshanam and arastu vikar prashmanam. So biological are there to keep the healthy ones and to relieve the sequence of their diseases. And from regulator point of view also, definitely like government is working in the direction of integrating chemical. It's not like eradicating or choosing only one. It is the coexistence. So again, the promotion of consortium guidelines where you can combine different biopesticide to make it to make new formulations, and then using biopesticides along with the chemical pesticides, like though chemical pesticides are recommended as a last resort in the IPM, but definitely if at all there is a use, but to start with biological practices and all, we may coexist with, these practices may coexist with the chemical pesticides. So in different IPM practices as well as in the registration processes also, it is encouraged. New biopesticides, provisional registrations are given. So to bring new strains from the local ecosystem, even in recently in tea, pesticide developed from the their ecosystem where the tea plantation is there. They have been given ad hoc registration to include in their package of practices. So I think many steps are being taken in this direction.
Good to know, good to know. Dr. Shailendra, she spoke about novel formulations and all of that. Could you help us understand what breakthroughs are we seeing in formulations and delivery in terms of, let's say, scalability, consistency, shelf life even?
Yeah, very pertinent question, because one of the limitation which we have seen in terms of the biopesticides and biofertilizers both is the consistency, because this is a living organism, and when you have extreme temperature or an extreme environmental conditions, usually the performance of these products that gets affected. There is a lot of work which is being done currently, I was other day I was visiting IPFT, and it was very nice to know that even in IPFT now the work has started in terms of the formulation development for the biologicals. And if you really see, as Srini was talking about, that the discovery pipeline of the chemistry is slowly drying up. I would say even for biologicals also, if we currently look at the kind of products which we have, they are very traditional, coming from very limited resources. Still, I think TNAU holds the maximum number of products which they offer to everybody. A lot needs to be done for the formulation development, where we can ensure that the not only the shelf life of the living organism, which is a microbe, but also when it comes to the working environment, creating a conducive environment for this microbe to work. For an example, I'll just take a quick minute. We are talking about the biofertilizers, and when we add the microbial biofertilizers in the soil, what they need? They need air, water, and food. The soil is so compact that there is no aeration in the soil. So how much of the activity we can expect? So some technological developments need to be done on that line. Similarly, when you are putting a biopesticide on a leaf surface, can we create an environment on the leaf surface where the longevity of this microbe is there for a longer period? So these kind of developments are, and microencapsulation is another thing which is there. I mean, we at Zydex, we are working on various formulations on these, all the three aspects, but I think it's just not only one company who can do. There has to be a collaborative approach with everybody, and a lot of people are working on this, but these are key directions which I see where the work needs to be done for the formulation development.
Got it. Thank you so much. Ms. Isha, we talked about shelf life. How should claims around shelf life and product liability be managed legally, given the sensitivity around biologics?
So the shelf life, I would say, needs to be backed by the stability data, right? So the field trials regarding the stability data needs to be there. And if I talk about the, not only in the domestic part, but for international, it is actually a challenge. So whenever the shelf life is concerned, that is the major hurdle in harmonizing the Indian products going into the global market. So that is something that we need to work on, and I'm personally actually looking forward to the pesticide management bill, which is going to be, which was 2020 bill already being done, but enacted, because that is going to highlight lot of aspects when it comes to biologicals and biopesticide. They are having a special focus on that category as well. So probably that will streamline lot of future perspectives when it comes to the legal implication.
My next topic is to talk a little bit about the inconsistency in field performances and how we are going to manage it. And my question is put to Dr. Shailendra and Mr. Srinivasa. You can take it in any order. What are we doing to ensure that consistent field performance comes across variable climatic and soil conditions? How do we manage that?
Okay. As I was talking on the same line, so I'll just extend a little bit and not take much of the time of that. And we are looking at mainly all the biologicals, whether, and here I'm talking not only about the biologicals, we are also looking at the botanical extracts as well. Because some of the botanical extracts like neem, for example, I mean, we have been knowing neem for a long period, but many a times it is like performance is not very visible to a lot of people. So we have looked at two aspects. One is that the formulation is prepared in such a way that this is long lasting, has a longer shelf life, and also when it is applied, even after considering the variability in the application, because the farmers' application methodology and technology are not very refined. I mean, the earlier panelists were talking about the drone. I mean, today that is a good development actually. But at the same time, you still see knapsack application where a lot of drift is there, a lot of untargeted application is there. So there are so many things. So what we are looking at is basically ensuring that even in the constrained environment, constrained situations, how these products can perform more effectively and efficiently. So we have created a formulation where, when you add it, I mean, this is not something which is a part of the formulation, but it's an adjuvant. So you just add it in the tank, and this creates a very thin layer which is hygroscopic in nature, so it maintains moisture on the leaf surface. Now you have moisture, you have starch on the leaf surface, the biology will work. It will sustain for a longer period. So these are some of the things which are being done to ensure that the basic myth, or actually partly reality, of consistency of the biologicals can be taken care of. And we have seen that it is improving, and Srini can also add on that.
No, yeah, that's very right, Shailendra. So I represent a company called INERA, which is a part of Absolute AG. So our approach to the biologicals more so in agri is like, if you look at the pharmaceutical biological journey, they're at least 2 decades ahead than the agriculture biologicals. So, I mean, even our head of R&D actually, who was a cancer researcher primarily. So we took a lot of experience, and the best practices that we can actually replicate in agri is what we have done. So one, on the formulation front, in terms of creating certain formulation technologies that actually can help them to be, working uniformly across the different agroclimatic zones. And second, in terms of, focusing the R&D, taking out the microbial part of it and, elevating it to the next level. So be it as a peptide, or it as a metabolite, or RNAi very specifically. I mean, if you look at our R&D, a lot of young scientists who were actually, came back from Japan, Australia, US, very focusedly working on creating, a good discovery platform that would be, devoid of microbials, but eventually working on the RNA-based technologies that we are trying to work. And at the same time, the current improvisation of the current conventional micro, because strain becomes very important. So we have about 35,000 different strains that we got collected as a nature intelligence platform, we call. So we try to focus the strain plus delivery mechanism, and even the molecular pathways that actually could help to perform it better is where the R&D is focusing. So that eventually helps us to differentiate the technology, from a conventional microbial or conventional biological performances to a very evolved and breakthrough biological, we call, to deliver the value to the farmer. Because if farmer doesn't see the value, then probably, it doesn't really matter for him whether it is a chemistry or it is a biology. So you need to deliver the value to the farmer, and he should feel that value.
So Dr. Archana, then given what they said, how is the government strengthening norms around product testing and quality control?
Like he said, it is not only the microbes, it is extracts, botanicals also. Recently, registration committee and Central Insecticide Board has gone one step ahead, and we have some bacteria and some fungi already there, but now Xanthomonas purge, it has been introduced in the schedule. So it means even with the advancement, with the R&D in this sector, government is ready to adopt and trying to bring new technologies and adopting it, and focusing on the registration of such products which are very target specific, and definitely can help better the farmers to specifically get remedy for the specific pest or new pest, as resistance has already been talked about in the panel. So definitely farmers also look forward for new thing, and industry also promote how farmers can get this thing. So definitely government is aligned in that direction, and bringing new molecules and substances in the schedule.
Got it. Okay. Thank you. The next topic is something that's close to my heart, which is cost. And the question is to both of you, Dr. Shailendra and Mr. Srinivasa. What do you think is a realistic roadmap to achieve cost parity between synthetics and biologics? And maybe we can also talk about the biggest cost structures, which is, let's say, R&D and clinical trials, manufacturing, logistics, marketing. Where do you think we can optimize and therefore, come to some sort of a parity, so that the end consumer probably sees that products are now getting closer to each other in terms of cost?
Before I talk about cost, I rather would talk about value.
Right.
you know, because even if you spend even 100 rupees, don't get any, you know, result, even 1 rupee is also waste, right? Or if it is worth, then you can spend even 10,000 rupees. I mean, let us focus on the value that we can create, because biologicals are not costly. I mean, if I talk at a farmer perspective, I think look at farmer is ready to pay a price if he really feels that, you know, that gives any technology, you know, that has that delta 4 effect. Like, I mean, thanks to Kunal, who actually had concept. So I try to slightly alter this. Like earlier we used to stand in a queue and then probably buy a ticket or reservation, which was taking half a day to full day. At least in my childhood, I used to stand in the railway queue, I mean, to get my ticket. Now I can do it on my phone. So the adoption is quick, you know, the kind of delta that technology can create. So biologicals are not there yet in terms of creating that, because it is just an incremental value they are adding, or incremental perceived value, I rather would say. The value might still be a very high, but still farmer or society is still not yet recognize this value that what we spoke about. So probably, you know, let us focus on creating that value, but how this can be done, because we were talking about agrochemicals, we are world number 2 today post China. But with the kind of agroclimatic, you know, the diversity of, you know, zones that what we have, we are sitting on the gold mine to become the global supply, you know, global supply hub for biologicals. But certain things probably we should look at in terms of how can we really facilitate, because all the biologicals who participate are small guys here. You know, it's not that big players are actually investing into it, because, you know, we also need some support from government, because CIB, RC, I mean, you know, the whole data generation on toxicology, etc. Probably each cost, you know, it runs into crores. But all these young scientists who are coming out of colleges, or, you know, who are young researchers who want to create value at a biological alternatives, probably somehow we need to design a policy around how can we help them to actually, you know, bring out those technologies. Can we incubate in a way, or can we do something at a policy level? Or, I mean, how can we really encourage the manufacturing, biomanufacturing process at a scale in India? Probably, you know, we have the best of the talent available, be it is technical or be it is regulatory or any such. And some policies probably, you know, like I was talking to a lot of companies, at least I was in US. So they have one of the best strain which is available, but we have our own limitations of bringing in any and creating an IP environment around, because, you know, I think they are okay to give us how can you stabilize a strain, you know, from a gram negative to have 2 years shelf life. But the problem is they are not very sure that, you know, if we can take away that, you know, the IP, and probably we don't pay them royalty or whatever, because we have set a very bad examples in the past in terms of our, you know, technology sharing with other companies outside India. But biological, you know, I think I see a biological revolution, what's going to happen. I'm definitely see that's going to, you know, next 30 years probably chemistry and biology would at a same level in terms of value, at a global level or global scale I'm talking. But we should actually take an early advantage of it to drive this. So how? Probably I think we should have a core group actually can work, you know, of different experts coming together and work. Probably, I mean, from at least an industry perspective, definitely we can join. I mean, a lot of associations are working around, but I think we should be more smarter enough to design, you know, a landscape for us to create that value. I mean, sorry, I didn't really talk about just cost, but I think,
fair.
yeah. Thanks.
I think that mindset shift also is important, cost to value. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'll just take what Srini has said, just take it forward with a few more additions. One is about the I mean, I fully agree with that actually cost is not a concern for biologicals. It's again the perceived value, what it is there. Now, there are certain ways in which we can make some changes. Maybe, there are some changes related to the regulatory aspects also, some policy aspects also, as well as Srini was talking about, you know, the scaling up. I mean, obviously, scaling up is required for two reasons. One is for the cost benefit, the second is for the consistency. Because what you do in 10 different fermenters, and if you scale it up for one fermenter, I mean, the quality and consistency is going to be definitely the same for the larger batch. That's how, I mean, I see the chemistry and biology working both in the same line. Second thing is like, if you really look at, aspects of how the global regulatory situation is, and this has to, why I'm taking it up is because this also has an impact on the perceived value and cost. See, biological is one thing very interesting. A single biological microbe, it can work as a pesticide and it can also work as a nutritional supplement, right? Now, we have certain limitations, like you cannot, keep all the fungus and bacteria as the same formulation. Now, that means if I want a farmer to use three things, I need to give him three different products. Now, three different products, the farmer looks at the cost and various other things, the dealer has its own influence, and so many things. So, he sometimes misses out on one product, which may be very critical. So, if we can come up with certain modifications or some flexibility in those terms, I am not saying that this should be a database thing, but this can be allowed. Now, similarly on the biofertilizer aspect, the fertilizers are also formulation specific, and there is a possibility of going with a different formulation, a combination formulations, which can be a combination of biologicals and maybe some extra, botanical extracts, or so many other things which are possible. So that is something which if we just add, so the path will become little more easier, and timeline can be cut down.
Got it. Very clear. We have about 10 minutes and I have two topics left. So I'll start with the smaller one. Talking about exports, and the questions will be to Dr. Archana and Ms. Isha. One is, how will the regulatory ecosystem support exporters in terms of, let's say, obtaining recognition or licenses, market access, and then what are the hurdles in terms of, let's say, data requirements, registrations? If both of you could just add a couple of minutes on each.
If you go through if you will see the guidelines for the export, registration committee has been granting export registration for the biopesticide on very relaxed guidelines, and I think number of products is continuously increasing. So from regulators' point of view, there are no hurdles as such. So this is from my side.
More from the, I would say, the legal aspect of the registration compliances that are required. So whenever an international entry is required, so there are a lot of compliances requirement from the international countries, and so some of the countries would require really complex data sets, right? So it would be like ecotoxicology reports, then it would be residue reports or the analysis reports, it could be genome categorization, so really complex and internal specifications that are required from them. So that takes time, right? So that is actually one of the hurdle when it comes to international export that is required. Additionally, I would say that IP also to a certain extent is both as well as a benefit as well as a hurdle, because IP is territorial in nature. So if some companies, major companies I would say, who are getting the entire IP registrations in India are not going global. So when they decide to go global, probably the timeline is lapsed, or the particular country is not supporting that entry at that point of time. So the strategy needs to be made beforehand, and that is what I'm saying from the I would say as an advisor kind of a point of view, that the strategy is usually developed at a later stage when it cannot be done. Whereas it should be done at the initial stage when you're trying to plan to enter into any global market. Your strategy in terms of regulatory and in general IP compliances should be done beforehand. Then only the harmonization can be done. So yeah, that's from my side.
Clear. Moving on to the last topic for this panel, I'll talk a little bit about farmer awareness, and the questions will be to both Mr. Srinivasa and Dr. Shailendra again. What are the proven models that you're seeing that drive adoption today? and what tactics have failed to help you scale. So both what are the farmer adoption successes and failures that you're seeing, and what would be the way forward.
No, as I said, as a concept, I think this needs to be definitely, so every technology has an influence factor, I would say. You know, like if I give a farmer, let's say, a BPH chemistry, which can kill brown plant hopper in next 1 hour, you don't have to campaign for the product. The product will speak for itself. So the influence factor of this is one satisfied customer will pull at least 25, 30 farmers of a word of mouth. Then when it comes to products like biofertilizers, you know, probably it is very difficult. I mean, first of all, if you use mycorrhiza, you will see the result after 20 days. I mean, if it is the best mycorrhiza used as a formulation, then probably it will take, you can see the difference between non-used control, untreated control versus your sprayed, used thing. So, at least on a biological front, the mechanism, the mode of actions are actually slower than the conventional synthetics ones, because where it's a quick quick kills, which you can see with either pyrethroids or even, certain other chemistries. But they are not the same. So the influence factor would actually always be limited. So the satisfied customer, we can expect him coming back again. So I think, the kind of campaign management or brand, that what we want to do is that this has to be one-to-one and experiential basis. So identifying that result discovery, becomes very, very difficult. So at least what we tried is, I think if you want to show the farmer the kind of root growth, probably should you use 2 beakers. One is with mycorrhiza applied, showing some. So you have to bring the field to the retailer level so that you can show it. So approach to campaign, approach to extension is always very, very different. So I think that is something which we found, which needs an extensive investment into it. Again, as I said, biologicals companies are small players. Mostly you see either they are scientists by themselves out of passion starting the biological company, or very few who are actually, are professionally managed companies, or someone, either startup, someone who want to scale it up at a length. Approach to extension is always different. So I think, a conventional approach in terms of campaign is not something which is working. So how do you amplify the message? Probably we are taking digital routes, but this has also become a commodity now, because, I think WhatsApp channels are, anything, I think, now I don't even pick up any promotional call that is coming by looking at the spam. So, which is also the same case with farmer. So, and it is also very difficult to create a, so largely the technology is being pushed from the retail end, who can expect a little bit of margins, because he can't have margin in the brands where regularly move. But again, you are just 5% or 10% of his counter. So with 300, 400 companies participating in that 5%, 10% space, so it is very difficult to collect the money back from these people, because you are not the one who can influence him, or he is not dependent on you. So a lot of challenges as an industry which we have, but I think you need to be more innovative. At least we try to work with farmer and create that, pull, but that has a limited, impact, because you have to work at every village, so that takes time, but it is actually giving a good result, at least wherever we are the satisfied customers. Yeah, but if we go, we have taken a conventional approach, like we go around and, do the way we did it with other agri inputs in the past, but that did not really help us, so we have changed the way.
Got it. Dr. Shailendra, anything to add?
Most of the things are same. It's right. So perhaps one thing which needs to be added to this is the way we are currently communicating about the biologicals. They are, being perceived as good to have, or rather not even good to have, nice to have. and the impact of, even though the impact, real impact in the farmer field when demonstrated properly, it's significant. But at a perception level, the farmer sees, okay, iske bina mera kaam chal jata hai. So when unless this becomes as a, with a clear communication that if you are using this particular biofertilizer, this can increase your nutrient use efficiency of your, chemical fertilizer, and you can reduce the chemical dose by X factor. Now, how do I say that? How much? Because when I say, okay, you can reduce the chemical fertilizer, the first question is how much? Now, to know that how much, we need to go for data generation. Now, the problem is, as Srini is also talking about, that most of these companies are very, very small. Now, if a small company, which is a few crores worth of business they are doing, if they have to spend 10 lakh rupees to generate the data from a university, how many of them will go? And this is visible that any university's package of practice does not have any biological recommendation so far. Because they have a policy that they will put it in the package of practice only if it is get tested. Now the testing fee is 10 lakh rupees, which nobody is ready to pay. So I think that is one area where we need to work, maybe as an industry together. Maybe we would request the government also to chip in here. Maybe some of the flexibility can be given by the ICR institutes to the biological testing. That is something which also needs to be added to what Srini has already told about.
Super. I think we are closing. We spoke about a bunch of topics. We started by talking about demand. We spoke about how resistance, how chemical resistance can be avoided with biologics. We talked about different technologies, product performance. We talked about cost and value. We talked about export, and then we also spoke about farmer adoption and how to grow. I think biological is a growing sector. It needs impetus from across the ecosystem, not just the private players who are trying to get products out in the market and increase adoption, but also from the government ecosystem, the legal ecosystem has to come together. With that, I thank you all panelists for sharing your thoughts. I thank all of you for listening to us, and I thank ICN.